Testing, testing, 1, 2, testing, testing. Can y'all hear me out there? How y'all doing? I'm back at you guys with another live stream. And on this live stream, we're going to talk about the migrant crisis and how it is affecting the surrounding areas of the sanctuary cities in certain places such as Colorado, Illinois, and New York. I'm going to give a few minutes for people to start filling in to the chat. When you come in, hit the like button, announce your your announce yourself and the state you're from because I kind of like to know where this video is going and who's watching. How y'all doing out there? Hope y'all doing good. Hope your day is going great. A lot of y'all may be traveling from work. A lot of y'all may be just getting to work, so hopefully I can entertain and inform you guys while you're going about those tasks. Anyway, we give a few minutes for people to fill into the chat before I get going. Man, that's a lot of stuff happening nowadays. I think I'm going to start focusing on more social political stuff, you know, um, start hammering that hard. You all have to let me know if that's something you would like to see. I'll still do some celebrity stuff, maybe some relationship topics a little bit, um, but I kind of want to shift into some of the other things that will impact our lives here, especially going into the 2024 political um, arena, because it's going to be a big one. It's going to be real interesting. We see that the law is being weaponized against uh, former President Donald J. Trump. And we're going to see how that's going to play out because although this is something I've seen before, especially working for years in a politically motivated uh, department, I've seen it on a local scale a lot, because when you work in a when you work in public service in a area that is highly influenced by politics, you see a lot of crazy stuff happening, man. You see a lot of crazy stuff happening. You see uh, a lot of Games of Thrones type stuff happening. Where people are using law and policies to get their way. What up, Louis Kanya? How you feeling, man? You from Jersey? Yeah, I got some family. Um, I think I still got some family out there in Jersey. Most of us are in Florida now. Those of the ones that came from Jersey, they're all in Florida, mostly in the Pensacola area. I have a few in Northeast Florida as well, but a big part of them are over in Pensacola. So yeah, man. But yeah, I thought this would be an interesting subject to talk about with these sanctuary cities and how this migrant crisis is impacting not only those cities but also those areas surrounding the cities. So you say Jersey a hellhole now? Man, I can believe it, Jack. Man, I can believe it. You know, I had some family up in what is it? I believe Orange, New Jersey as well. They're here. They're over in I want to say those relatives are uh I think they're in South Florida, like around more towards South Florida, like around Fort Lauderdale, maybe even the greater Miami area. So, but yeah, man. Yeah, yeah. Hey, John, you guys having a lot of issues with migrants there? I don't know if any of the places in New Jersey are sanctuary cities. So, if they are, let me know in the chat, man. So, yeah. So, well, let me get this kicked off. As we see the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, he's right there on the border between Mexico and Texas, um, and he's dealing with the ground zero basically of a lot of these border crossings. Now, I was in El Paso, Texas, during my time early in the military, and we used to go over to Juarez until Juarez got a little too crazy. And I think that was a response to just some of the knuckleheads that was coming over, going over to Juarez from from Fort Bliss. They go over there, get drunk, act a fool, and get beat up, and or get in some trouble, and somebody would have to go get them out. So that's my experience with that particular area of the border crossing. Um, Lewis, I was in the U.S. Army, man. I did 20 years in the U.S. Army, and the National Guard component of the reserves. And I retired a couple of years ago, enjoying this retirement. And I happened to wake up at 3 or 4 in the morning to get ready for my work day to start at 5. So you did 10 years in the Marine Corps. Hoorah! Yeah, I got my brother was a Marine, and I have quite a few family members that are Marines actually, and we all give each other, you know, we give each other grief about our respective branches of government, when we get together, when we talk, you know, it's all fun and games. I did some training with some Marines, and you know, for the most part, most of them are pretty good guys, man. Um, some of them can be full of themselves, but for the most part, they're pretty good guys. I was teaching MacP, and we would get actually former Marines in the class, and they would come in there with that devil dog attitude and get choked to sleep. Yeah, man. Actually, when I went to RIP, we had uh, we had 4 Marines in my RIP class that were on their way to they were en route to becoming recon Marines, and that's one of the U.S. Army schools that they had to go to. Is actually 2 U.S. Army schools that they have to go to. One is the airborne school, and the other is the Ranger indoctrination process. So, we was in there with them guys, and they gained a newfound respect for U.S. Army schools. You guys have the toughest basic training without a doubt, but U.S. Army schools, that's a whole nother animal. And every Marine that I've come into contact with that has had to go through a U.S. Army school, they all say the same thing. They are super tough. All right, let me jump into this topic, man. All right. Yeah, yeah, they go to Pathfinder school too, man. Yeah, yeah. I didn't get a chance to go to Pathfinder school. Um, by the time um, I was um, eligible to go, they closed the school. So, there are no more U.S. Army Pathfinders being made. Man. So, was a gentleman's course anyway. It's a lot of math, a lot of math, a lot of math on the run. You're not simply sitting down figuring out equations. You got to do that, most of that in your head and on the run. So, but they say it's a gentleman's course. It's not as physically rigorous on the attendees, but it is um, mentally taxing. So, yeah, that's a tough school. All right, let me jump into this topic. As we know, the U.S. is currently dealing with the migrant crisis. We have a lot of people coming into the country from other places, primarily from Central and South America. These would be places such as Guatemala, Honduras, Venezuela, um, Colombia, places like that. But also within those groups, you have people from Haiti coming in. You have people from China. They found people from the Middle East, from certain places that are normally on the watch list. So you got a lot of people coming in. As I mentioned in my earlier stream, um, I think it's up to like maybe 10,000 a day. It's a ridiculous number of people coming into the country. So, you know, all seeking political asylum. So, with that being said, um, what Governor Abbott did was, as they're coming through, he's putting them on buses and he's sending them to the sanctuary cities. Now, these sanctuary cities are cities that have stated that they will accept the migrants, that the migrants don't have to worry about the public safety, the police um, cooperating with ICE to detain them and send them back. What's up, Extended Clips? How you feeling today, bro? Where you from, man? So, in these sanctuary cities, they would provide um, both financial and economic support and social support to have the incoming immigrants, you know, be able to kind of transition into life in the U.S. Now, it's no secret that I actually have roots in Belize and Honduras. So, and I'm actually a descendant of a immigrant who came over into the country illegally. That being said, you know, what's going on right now, I see it as very problematic. This is not something that is good for the country. I am pro immigration, but I am pro immigration going through the proper channels. You know, I in fact I have sponsored people who went out to get their U.S. citizenship, and I've served with in the military. I served with people who were trying to get their citizenship while serving in the U.S. Army. So, getting back to getting back to the topic at hand, um, with these sanctuary cities, what's happening is because these busloads of migrants are being shipped um, uh, very intensely to these sanctuary cities. Those cities are being taxed as far as public services and different things like that. A lot of political strife has resulted because a lot of the people in the cities feel like the cities are ignoring the citizens who were there and who have done things the right way and who have, who were born there, who pay taxes and different things. They feel like their concerns are being set aside in favor of these migrants. So, Um, and along with all of that, there's a lot of migrants coming. Like I said, I think it's like 10,000 a day. And with this constant influx of new people, there's a lot of issues that come with that. The increase of crime from the undocumented, the again the taxing of public service. You got people in places like New York, I guess. Um, Prostitution has exploded there, so you have that, and you have people out sleeping in the streets and all kinds of stuff. You have a lot of funds that would normally be allocated to take care of the citizens of those cities being redirected to assist the migrants, and the people don't like it. So you from Sacramento? You from California, Oakland? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay. I don't think I know anybody from Oakland per se, other than people, I've come into contact with on social media in some capacity. I don't know anybody personally, outside of social media from Oakland, you know. Um, but I have been to California and stuff, and the weather is great. I'll say that much. But everything is too damn expensive in California. I didn't like that. Because I got family in Los Angeles, and I visited family there, and I was like, man, I can't do this. I back in like 1993, 92, 93, um, a gallon of milk was like $5, man. It just blew my mind back then. So I know a gallon of milk got to be around, 7, $8. So, you know, man, that's cost of doing business in California. Well, anyway, um, with these sanctuary cities, um, with them, with this steady influx of migrants, what you have happening is that um, because the cities are now trying to block a lot of the migrants coming in, um, $7. Whoo, yeah, yeah, I was about right. Now with this constant influx of migrants coming into the cities are taking measures to block additional migrants coming. Eric Adams is quoted as saying that, um, oh no, it was Brandon Johnson. He was saying that pretty much Chicago is pretty much filled to capacity. So what's happening is that you have um, these busloads of migrants being dropped off in the surrounding suburbs. Um, in Illinois, you have places like Elgin. You have places like you know, I do know some being dropped off in Joliet, Illinois, Broadview, different places like that. They're putting them as close to the city as possible so that they can find their way into the city. Um, let me go over here to one of the videos I got for this and show you what the news is saying about this. So check this out.
Johnson says the city of Chicago is almost at capacity with migrants.
This as more and more asylum seekers are making their way to the suburbs and other towns, villages that surround Chicago. As of today, Chicago has received over 26,000 asylum seekers. At least 10 buses of additional migrants were expected to arrive today. And the OEMC says at least 3 buses arrived in the suburbs yesterday. Local leaders are meeting with Mayor Brandon Johnson about what to do as he meets with the mayors of Denver and New York to talk about what happens next. CBS 2's Sabrina Franza has the story.
Fair use, fair use.
All of our cities have reached a point where we are either close to capacity or nearly out of room.
Almost.
Okay, so that was Brandon Johnson, um, the mayor of the city of Chicago, saying that that the population is close to capacity or at capacity as a result of the constant influx of migrants. All right, let's continue.
At capacity.
Without significant intervention from the federal government, this mission will not be sustained.
Still, migrants continue to make their way from buses onto Metra and into the city. Chicago counts at least 19 buses that they know of. We called around and asked towns, villages, places outside the city how many buses they've received. Plotted.
So, so we got that going on in Chicago, and I know some of those cities, those surrounding cities, some of them that I mentioned earlier, they're taking measures to stop the migrants from coming into their cities because even though Chicago is a sanctuary city, these smaller cities and villages and towns are not sanctuary places. They may or may not have that sanctuary status. So um, their response is they're doing different things like um, enacting ordinances and different things to stop the migrants from coming in. Now they can't outright make laws because they don't have that power. That has to be done through the respective state legislature in order for laws to be created. So their answer is to create different ordinances, and an ordinance is basically like a fine for a breached penalty um, as a way to control what they don't want to happen. So you have that going on over in Chicago. And check out this next video. This is another video from Chicago. The reason I did Chicago was because I'm originally from Chicago, and I know that area well, so I have a very good idea of what's going on there because the stuff with the migrants is actually not new. It is just ramped up. Right before I left, before I retired from police work, we saw an increase of uh, you know, illegal aliens. That's what I'm gonna call it. Illegal immigrants coming into the area, and they have like little different areas that they usually trickle their way into. Let's take a look at this video.
Migrants are arriving there instead of here in the city. Elizabeth Matthews joins us now with the very latest on this evolving dynamic. Elizabeth, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Anthony. Several suburbs are doing what they can to stop those migrant buses from stopping in their communities. And a lot of suburbs are doing that by passing ordinances, or at least talking about them, starting the conversation.
Fair use, fair use. Remember what I mentioned earlier about the ordinances? This is an example of the different responses through ordinances that the cities are taking in order to deal with the arriving migrant situation in their respective places.
Last night, migrants were seen inside Ogilvy Transportation Center, some of them telling us they don't even know where they were initially dropped off in the suburbs. Last week, the village of New Lenox talked about an ordinance. The mayor out there passed an executive order, signed off on an executive order to put a stop to buses making unscheduled stops in their community. Last night, Elburn did the same thing. These stops.
Let's talk about the city of New Lenox. I used to actually live at the border of New Lenox, and I'll tell you something. New Lenox, it's a lot of money out there, lot of money, a lot of suburban money. That's the southwest suburbs over in Will County, and they it's a big money area. A lot of those McMansions are out there. A lot of old and new money is out there in New Lenox, and in fact, they had one the one Catholic high school Providence, which was really a really highly ranked high school, Catholic high school in the Catholic League.
Ops have been going on for several weeks, especially after Chicago's Mayor Brandon Johnson turned up the heat on bus companies. Officials here have fined at least 95 buses, impounded 2 of them. The New Lenox mayor says that they have 2 police officers stationed at their metro station and so far haven't had any busloads of migrants dropped off, but officials have had to help one person.
We did have one migrant the other day who was walking down Route 30. We were able to, with our fire department and police department, communicate with this migrant who had said they had been walking for a day and a half. They were told that they were in Chicago, and of course they weren't. So our fire department checked them to make sure they were healthy, make sure that there was no medical issue, pending medical issue, and then we were able to put them on a train and send them to the city of Chicago.
I sent him on his way. I'm gonna tell you the funny thing about Route 30 over there. I know Route 30 well. Um, you know that cuts through like Joliet and Plainfield out that way, and you have the Lowe's. You have a Lowe's not that far from Route 30, and you have a Home Depot right on Route 30 at I-290 was I-294. So if you know that area, a lot of jokes can be made about that area, man. So but yeah, that's what you have happening. And I want to say that area, um that particular area is about a good 40 miles southwest of Chicago. So, you know, that guy that the police officers found walking along Route 30, he had about a good 35 to 40-mile trip into Chicago. So he was going to be doing some heavy duty walking, you know. So yeah, man. And but this is what's going on, you know. This is what's going on. And um I gotta say, um, these sanctuary cities and their mayors, they're getting pretty much what they asked for. You know, it's there's an old saying: "Be careful what you ask for, because you just might get it." And they're they're getting what they asked for. Let's take a look at this next video, um, right here, and let's see what this reporter, we showed this guy earlier. Let's see what he has to say.
And another suburb is considering action to address the growing influx of migrants as buses stop short and skirt around Chicago. The Oaklawn Village Board will discuss requiring a special permit to operate a bus within the village. It would also ban any unscheduled bus stops or passenger drop-offs. This will happen at the next Village Board meeting. That's happening January 9th. Crystal Lake has also added itself to the list of suburbs now scrambling to
Fair use, fair use. Now, these two areas, Oak Lawn, um, is actually one of the suburbs out there. I want to say that's off 95th Street on the south side of Chicago, and that it butts right next to Chicago. So it's literally you could fall in the middle of the street, and depending on where you fall, you're either in Chicago or you're in Oak Lawn. And Oak Lawn is another one of those places. Solid middle class, working class area. A lot of manicured lawns, and historically they have had they've had some immigration there, but it's not of the Central Americans and South Americans and whatnot. Their immigrants would usually be Polish or Irish, and so this influx of people from Central South America, it's a little bit different. And if you know anything about Chicago, Chicago is very racially segregated, you know. So let's continue.
try to discourage any buses from making unscheduled drop-offs. In suburban Broadview, bus drivers and companies will now face criminal charges if they drop passengers off during severe weather or without a coordinated plan. The buses themselves will also be impounded. Mayor Broadview says it's inhumane to send busloads of people to regions experiencing harsh winter weather without any plan or regard for safety. And another suburb is considering.
All right. So let's close that. Okay, this area, Broadview, was an area that I know pretty well because I lived in Broadview for a couple of years back in the day, and it's a solid, it's a working class area. It's actually a predominantly black working lower middle class area. Um, I think the average income there is about $60,000. You have a lot of the houses that are there were built back in World War II. Fun fact about Broadview: Broadview used to be a Japanese intern camp back in back during World War II. And so, and a lot of those houses in that area date back to those dates back to that area, and a lot of those houses were built as a result of VA home loans. You know, so and it's pretty close to Chicago too. I want to say um, Broadview is probably about 6 miles from Chicago, 6 miles uh, west of Chicago. So that's the western suburbs of the Chicagoland area. So you have that going there. So anyway, um, what we're seeing is that in a lot of these places around Chicago in particular, they're reacting by imposing uh, imposing ordinances in the case of the city of Broadview, they're using criminal law to deal with the buses bringing in the migrants, and I think you're going to see a big increase of these types of reactions to the migrant crisis if the Democrats don't do anything about that border, if the Biden administration doesn't handle what's going on with that border. Um, you know, looking at some of the other things that were enacted that did make sense, um, as part of the Safety Act in Illinois, you can now be undocumented migrant, and you could possibly get a job as a police officer, which is crazy because your very status in the United States makes you a felon. Coming into the United States um, undocumented makes you a felon. It's a felony crime. So now you're telling me that these people can be police officers. Yeah, as you can imagine, I have an issue with that. Back when I was working in law enforcement in Chicago, I remember how hard it was back because I started working in the mid '90s. Uh, it was hard to get a police job because in Chicago, in the Chicago area, and in Cook County, because you had to know somebody or know somebody that knew somebody in order to get those jobs. In fact, and that was in any area of public safety. In fact, there were a few lawsuits filed to address that because um, you had people that were qualified to get the job, but they couldn't get the job over Biff McBiff's nephew. you know. So I know there were a few lawsuits dealing with that, man. So it's interesting to see that um, that 180 degree switch. And it's like, man, the way I look at it is like, you know, for some of these guys that had non-violent misdemeanor arrests, if anybody should be able to get those jobs, it should be American citizens with non-violent misdemeanor arrests, you know. So yeah, I definitely take issue with that, you know. So but this is what we're going to be dealing with going into 2024, which is a couple of days away. And um I have a few uh I have a few perceptions or projections on the impact of this migrant influx as far as political shenanigans. You know, in my earlier video, I talked about how they're trying to get in as many people as they can to cultivate the future the future tax base and to you know and then and if you combine that with the different travel advisories and restrictions and you combine that with what they're doing with uh, what's possibly going to happen with a nationwide standardized digital currency. Um, it's going to be easy to come into the US, but it's going to be hard, next to impossible, to get out and especially to send money out. And with these new migrants coming in, a lot of them are coming in with shady backgrounds, you know, being released from prisons and mental institutions and stuff. Um, I'm going to say this. I think it is a very good chance that some of these people are going to be used to create, they're going to be paid disruptors. Um, they're going to go into places and cause trouble to steer, in order to steer the elections um, a certain way. It was done before with the BLM protests and different things like that. And you know, this is it that resulted in what we have. And I this is what I say about that, you know, back in 2020, 2019, 2020. You know, in 2020, we had the mask mandate. And with the mask mandate, we all know by now, uh, those masks were never intended to control or deter the contraction of the cough. Those you know, we all know that that didn't work, and I think it was just a I think it was just a, a, a misdirection tactic. The real purpose of those masks were to conceal the identity of paid disruptors, you know, especially with all of the facial recognition technology that we have that is used by law enforcement to identify criminals and you know, different things like that. If you have a mask on and everybody else has a mask on, who's the you can't really identify and point out who the criminals are as opposed to the rest of the people. You know, you had the thing with the hoodies and then you had these masks. You had the perfect way for people who were out to commit mayhem to hide themselves. And so I say that to say this, because I think the jig is up with that. I think the new way to create um, the disruption will be with people who are undocumented, who basically don't exist. You don't have a real identity for. They'll be able to come in, uh, create havoc, create mayhem, and move out of different areas, and or go back to the countries that they came from and you really don't have anybody to charge. The damage is already done, and that criminal has gotten away. That paid disruptor has gotten away. So this is what you're going to have with that. So um, that's how I see that playing out for the 2024 elections, especially with a lot of Americans being dissatisfied with the job that the Biden administration is doing, um, and with the obvious weaponizing of the law against, you know, former President Trump with a lot of frivolous lawsuits and playing a lot of, ambiguous and, playing a lot of shenanigans with the law. I think that's going to be yet another part of the way that's going to be used to steer the election in the way that the Democrats want it to go. So, anyway, so getting back to what I was talking about with how these cities are handling the migrant crisis, the influx of these migrants, we're going to see a whole lot more enforcement of areas surrounding these cities. A lot of these police officers in these smaller towns and villages and, you know, um, different areas like that. That's going to be the way that they're going to fight back against the influx of migrants into sanctuary cities. Well, anyway, I'm going to end this live stream here. Thank you all for coming in, extended clips and Louis Kanye and whoever else is there. I appreciate you guys coming in. I'll probably hit you guys with a video a little bit later today. I don't know if I'm going to do an upload or do a live stream, but I want to talk about um, the engineer, the Tesla engineer being attacked by the robot. And I'm going to talk about that, talk about Sam Altman and Mustafa Suleiman, I think, the former Google officer who had some concerns about AI. I'm going to do a video on that later because that reminds me of the Terminator scenario. If you guys have ever seen the movie Terminator, uh, I think um, with the increase of AI sentience, I think that's going to be a definitely within the realms of possibility. So I'm going to talk about that on my next video, which I'll probably come back later with that one. Other than that, this is Royce J of Royce Media. Like, share, and subscribe. Hit the like button if you hadn't already hit it, and like, share, and subscribe. And I'll talk to you guys later.